It's a mailbag edition of Locked On Hawkeyes, your biggest questions on Iowa football. Those burning questions, plus a look if Kirk decides to hang it up. Who would be Kirk Ferentz's replacement? We break it down today. Locked On Hawkeye.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for 20 years here on the radio in the state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. We have stations in Sioux City, the Quad Cities, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and our flagship 106.3 KXNO. You can hear me each weekday talking Hawkeyes and the world of sports from noon until 2. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We are going to dive into many of the topics that you Hawkeye fans right now think are the most important. Comments, thoughts, questions, concerns, all the comments coming in on social media and on our YouTube page. In fact, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now, and we will be able to get in front of you each and every day. Your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast is right here with Locked On Hawkeyes. Today, we are going to talk a little bit of basketball later in the show, but there is a ton to get into on the football side of things. And we're going to begin with many of your questions. We're going to talk about the future of Kirk Ferentz. We're going to talk about this offense, any hope of getting this turned around, what it's going to look like this season, and a lot of big questions about the future of the program that we will get into today. So let's get into it and jump into some of your comments and questions on the Hawkeye Mailbag edition this week of Locked On Hawkeyes. This one comes from Irish Bull Matt, who says, "Don't stand up or try to defend Kirk. Thank him for his time. Respect him for what he's done. Quit being scared of change." I'm going to start right there. We'll get a little bit more to Matt's comments here. Scared of change. And in a way, you're right. I am scared of change. As we get older, I think all of us maybe fall into that a little bit more, because I do have the memories of what happened in the basketball program back in 1998 and Dr. Tom moving away. And for all the frustrations that we have for Iowa football, I know I'm not alone in that lingering concern that we were looking for the next level at that time. That was the term that Bob Bowlesby used in the decision not to bring back Dr. Tom and to hire Steve Alford. The decision was about taking the program to the next level. And they did. The next level down. And then it went down. And then it was raised back up to maybe the floor of the 90s Dr. Tom era. And that's what we got with Fran McCaffrey. But it took a long time. And even that, we're still searching for our first Sweet 16. And when you put it in terms of Iowa football has not won a Big Ten championship in over 2 decades. Iowa football has played for 2 Big Ten championships and been embarrassed the last 2 times of the 3 championship games that they've been involved in. So there's that part of it that you're left saying, this program, there is a next level up that you can get to. And now Iowa's inability to beat ranked teams, 0-10 in their last 10 games. And outside of the game against Iowa State, most of them have been blowouts. They haven't even been close in those games. And all the good feelings, all the good things that we've had with Kirk Ferentz and that were there, feels like they're slipping through a little bit more, even with the successes that are there. But Matt brings up a good point. I am scared of change, because that change very well could go the other way. And the consistency and the wins that we've been able to see throughout the years very easily could go the other way. Look, Iowa's a lot closer to being the middle of the pack and lower than they are catching the Ohio States and Michigans of the world. And in this new era of college football, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Iowa to move up to that next level. So he's right. There is a part of me that definitely is scared of change. Let's get back into it, because Matt has some good comments in here. Players and coaches have changed, but the offense is still awful. Yep, he's to blame. He's hired the bad coaches. He's evaluated the bad quarterbacks. He guides the worst offense. He sells us a bill of BS goods, and it's always the same. To put his feet to the fire for once and hold him there until he fixes it or is fired. Matt, there's a lot in there, but I think your comments, your concerns, what you're talking about, is the sentiment that we hear from a lot of Hawkeye fans. A little bit more here and more of the comments coming in. You can hit us up on YouTube, or you can find me on Twitter at Trent Condon. Hit me up over there with your questions and we'll get to them usually every couple of weeks. This one comes from Geo Pat. Where the heck is Dayton Howard? Due to 6'5", all we have out there is a bunch of slot receivers. Need someone who can create a mismatch. Pat, this is an absolutely great comment. It goes back to what we talked in that final play of the game, the 4th down play for Iowa before Iowa State kneeled it out. And the pass attempt went to Hayden Large, a converted fullback, your third tight end, guy not exactly known for his speed. Now, we talked about the depth of this wide receiver room, and it felt like maybe things could be different this year. Certainly aren't at this point, but could be different because there were other weapons. Now, I always had concerns about Dayton Howard. He was a Kansas City kid with that kind of side and the speed as a track athlete that he had, and Kansas State wasn't involved, and Missouri wasn't involved, and even Kansas, who was at a depleted state as a program, wasn't involved. That was always my concern with him. What did they see or not see that Iowa did? And he's not getting out there, and he's only playing a handful of snaps, even when you're without your other big wide receiver, and Reese Vanderzee. Pat, I think an absolutely spot-on topic there, and Dayton Howard definitely, look, he's a scholarship guy, and you need help with the wide receiver group. Why not give it to a guy that at least has a touchdown in his career? Up next question, comment from YouTube from John Venator. This program will not get better until either Kirk leaves or he has simply made a figurehead who stands on the sidelines with headphones that don't work. Kind of reminds me of Joe Pa at the end. His unwillingness to take any chances until there are no other options has crippled this program's ability to have a realistic chance of making the playoffs. The only national coverage his teams have gotten over the last several years have simply been the wider college football world laughing at its backwardness disguised as trusting the formula. John, I think one of the things I really like about this comment is just this. It is about the national laughingstock that Iowa has become. Look, after the 2002 season, and Iowa was built into what they became 03, 04, and some of the other great teams, 2015, 2009. Yes, Iowa's offense wasn't ridiculously great. Iowa's offense was never going to be at the top of the pack, and part of that was a style of play. In terms of snap count, in terms of pace, they were never going to be at a high level, and because of that, they weren't going to have ridiculous totals. And people would scoff a little bit and laugh, but what it's turned into these last 6 years is hurt the program. And it's hurt the program with that national perception. You know, when people nationally this offseason would bring up Mark Gronowski, and maybe they had a quarterback, and it felt like every time you would hear that, there'd be pushback and saying, well, it's still Iowa. And I pushed back at that because I thought it was going to be different. Shame on me. This is on me. And this is all of us that bought it hook, line, and sinker. And yes, I was amongst them because you're right. And the damage that is being done to the offense. Can you imagine trying to recruit wide receivers at this point in time? And unless you give them a bag of money and outspend in the portal at the high school level, and even then, how difficult this has to be to go out there and get difference makers at the wide receiver position. Look, their biggest transaction in the portal at the wide receiver spot the last couple of years have been a 5'7" guy, 5'7", and a guy that barely played at Northwestern in Jacob Gill, who's turned into their best receiver. That's the difficult nature that you're up against, and it's because of what this offense has become. I think a really good comment there. All right, let's continue and let's take a look at the running back position. Now, a couple of these comments coming in. This from Crypto Gold Silver 2826. The coaches are not fond of Jazz these past 2 seasons. I don't get why he is number 3 on the depth chart. Something we talked about the other day here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Yeah, the depth chart came out. Now, normally, this is just a microcosm. Take the guys that are injured off there and the way that it played out. If we go into this game against UMass this week and we see once again Terrell Washington Jr. as a starter, I'm going to be apoplectic. I mean, there's no reason from what we've seen these first couple of weeks that he needs to be the first guy out there. And the way that I was built, the way that I was going to play in this bully ball with a running quarterback, a physical running quarterback, that's not a fit for Terrell Washington Jr. Third down back, that kind of guy, pass catcher out of the backfield. Yes, absolutely, that's his game. But between the tackles, you need Jazian Patterson. You need more Xavier Williams. I'm with you right there. That was one of the more confounding aspects, and I think hurt them in the first couple of series of the game against Iowa State over the weekend when we saw right away the offense look like more of the same and absolutely stuck in the mud. We got more for you here on Locked On Hawkeyes, a mailbag edition. Some of your big questions for Iowa football. If Kirk walks away, who should the new coach be? And we got more on Mark Gronowski. We'll do that as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to great control, all with all-wheel drive standard. And every crossover SUV you can drive with confidence through almost every season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every moment count, impossible C becomes irrelevant. Mazda. Move and be moved. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is also brought to you by DoorDash. Well, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Hawkeyes, Jazian Patterson delivered in a big way. He was the guy that got the offense moving, those long drives. He was a big part of it. He was the guy in the running game that needed to be out there. And when the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Jazian Patterson is on a streak. And just like Jazian Patterson delivered for the Hawkeyes, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period good through 11/18. Trent Condon back with you once again on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. And a big thank you to each and every one of you out there with us each and every day. We are your daily Hawkeye podcast, talking the world of Hawkeyes with you every single day. So as I'm going through these comments, and there are a ton of them, and a big thank you to everybody that comments. And I see most every one of them that are put there on YouTube or people that send it to me on social media. And thank you to everybody that passes along your thoughts. One thing is the sentiment. It's ready to move on from Kirk, those kind of things. So I'm not going to go down that path right now. We've had plenty of comments. You can read them. We've talked about it here. But win, lose, draw, however this season unfolds this season, we don't know how it's going to end for Kirk Ferentz. And we don't have the power right now to make those kind of determinations the way this is going to go. However, just go down this path with me. This is not me reporting that Kirk is walking away. Do not get it wrong, because I know this summer when we brought up this topic, some people got it wrong. I'm not saying that Kirk is leaving. That's not what this is. Listen to the context. If Kirk Ferentz walks away, retires after this season, who are some names that would make a whole lot of sense? Now, of course, there are the standard names that you look at, right? The ones that come up every single time, the ones that are there every time this topic comes up. In-house, Seth Wallace. He got the label last summer as the associate head coach. A lot of people believe that he very well could be Kirk's choice as the heir apparent if it does come to that. And if he had a vote, maybe that would be the one that he'd look at. So Seth Wallace definitely has got to be there on the list. You take it a step further, Lavar Woods, another one that makes a whole lot of sense. Took a look at the NFL, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the past offseason. There's been other opportunities for Lavar. Of course, a Hawkeye player, has been here for a very long time, has done a great job with special teams. Saturday aside, wasn't his fault. Definitely a guy that seems to make a whole lot of sense. And when you talk about special teams coaches, those are guys that have been able to move into that role and do it without being a coordinator, offensive, defensive coordinator, and do it very well. John Harbaugh, definitely at the top of the list when you talk about guys going from special teams coach to becoming a head coach, and what a good job he has done. So those are the in-house candidates. Phil Parker, too old, not going to happen. People said that a ton about Phil. He's had opportunities. He loves Iowa City. And likely if Kirk hangs it up, a lot of people believe that Phil Parker also will hang it up at the same time. So let's go out of house. And two names that also jump out often. First, Chris Kleiman. It's going terribly at Kansas State this season for Kleiman. He's a guy that's built a nice program there. He's got connections to the state of Iowa from Waterloo. So a lot of people point his direction of a name to throw out there. Of course, former Hawkeye Brett Bielema, though there is in his contract some terminology about taking another Big Ten job. Contracts are made to be broken, and there could always be a way. That would be an absolute godsend. I think a lot of people would get behind Brett Bielema as the next Hawkeye coach, but of course there is that sticky contract situation that is out there. So let's go off the board though. And I got a few candidates here that are a little bit different than your stock ones that are there. Now, the hot name right now is Alex Golesh, the head coach at South Florida. What he's done at USF, first 2 years with an injury-riddled roster, lost quarterbacks in both of those seasons, still getting USF to bowl games both years. He's also got the university and got the Tampa people there in Tampa involved a whole lot more. He's done a really good job. He was at Iowa State under Matt Campbell. He's an Ohio guy. He was at Illinois for a long time. So this is a guy that has connections to the Midwest, also connections doing things in a different way, really a hot commodity. Does he want to stay in the South? We'll see. But a name certainly that's going to be a hot one if it comes to this. And then the Matt Campbell thing. Come on, guys. Let's just not even do that. He's not leaving Iowa State for Iowa. Dan Mullen. There's a name for you. Dan Mullen's got UNLV off to a good start. They beat UCLA this weekend. Dan Mullen, still only 53 years old. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought he was older. Did a really good job at Mississippi State, of course, with Dak Prescott. Led them to an Orange Bowl appearance. He took them to bowl games seemingly every single year. And I think we all know before and after how difficult that job is at Mississippi State. And then he goes to Florida, and you look at Dan Mullen's resume there. Now, he won back-to-back double-digit games. Went 10-3 in 2018, 11-2 the following season, including a win in the Orange Bowl. Followed up in the COVID year at 8-4, including 8-2 in the SEC play, and finished 12th in the country that year. But then the wheels fell off in 2021. Went out, was on TV, now is back at UNLV. Boy, there are names, and a guy that has at least a little bit of Big Ten background. Well, he's from Pennsylvania. I guess that's as close as we're going to get on that front. But under Urban Meyer for a long, long time at 53, we'll see. Dan Mullen, a name that I haven't seen a whole lot of people mention, but you definitely could put on the list. But here's maybe the craziest. All right, we live a little bit wild. Let's have a little bit of fun here, because this has not been a fun week to talk Hawkeyes all the time. Let's have some fun and play this game with me. Kirk Ferentz retires. Comes to the end of the year. He makes his retirement announcement. We're playing this game. And then you start looking. There is a coach that has some local ties, that grew up in South Dakota, coached at South Dakota for a long time, the University of Sioux Falls. Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer is at Alabama. I know Iowa's not going to be able to hire the Alabama coach away. That's not what this is at all. However, the Natives are already restless. And after the loss to Florida State, the losses last year that they had to Michigan, to Oklahoma, some head scratchers already. Alabama cannot afford what would be a $69.3 million buyout. However, as we saw here with Steve Alford, coaches that get out before the firing comes. The money is ridiculous. And when you sign an 8-year, $87 million contract, as Kalen DeBoer did at Alabama, it's going to cost. But with the connections that he has to the Midwest, to a philosophy that I think could work at Iowa, and a guy that has won everywhere that he has been, but you just wonder. And right when he was hired and left Washington to take the Alabama job, it was the first question that I asked about the change in culture. It's one thing from going from South Dakota and going to Fresno State after being at Indiana and making the jumps that he did. It's another from going from the Pacific Northwest and the old Pac-12 to where we are today. The SEC is a different animal, and it is a behemoth. What you're going through, they're not happy down there. And if it's another 8-4, 9-3 type of season, you know they'll be trying anything possible to move on. Is it worth a phone call? I think at minimum it is. It's a crazy one. I get it, but we're just having a little bit of fun. Let's get back into the mailbag with more of your questions. Let's talk a little bit about the quarterback. This is from Just Too Smooth. Yeah, Mark wasn't great, Mark Gronowski, but at least he was a man of his word. He said he was going to allow routes to develop and hang in the pocket a little longer, and that's what he did. I mean, Tim literally called a Brian play where he had 3 receivers right across the middle of the field at the same time on a play where Mark hit Gill for the 8 or 9 yard pickup. Yeah, Gronowski, he did hang in there. Hey, that's one thing. For the knocks on Mark Gronowski that we've seen a couple of weeks in, he was better in week 2, and there needs to be a whole lot more growth to get there. I mentioned the drops were not helpful. Ball placement needs to be better and allow for the receivers, when they actually hold on to the ball, to actually run with it. Those things can still get there. But yes, stays in there. And Mark Gronowski, that dude's tough. I mean, he's going to hang in the pocket. He is going to sit there, and he's going to take some hits this year. A little bit more from Smooth here. Let's see what else he's got. It's going to continue to come down to me when it comes to the Hawkeye offense. You're actively holding this team back by deliberately not trying to be more aggressive on offense. This is something that has always just confounded me. And Smooth brings this into my mind. When we hear the philosophy of Phil Parker and what they're working to do defensively, and going back to Norm Parker, right? You're keeping everything in front of you. Bend but don't break. The old philosophy that you hear a lot of people, because the thought process is, certainly at the collegiate level, that teams, you're going to make them drive the length of the field and do it not in chunk plays, but every single time. Because college kids are going to make a mistake. Somebody's going to drop a pass. A quarterback's going to miss a throw. A guy's going to miss a block. Things are going to happen over the course of what it's going to be a 10, 12, 15 play drive to score a touchdown on you. And the thought process is that these college players are going to be able to make a mistake. And when they make that mistake, then you pounce on it. That's the philosophy, and has been now for 27 years of this Iowa defense under 2 different coordinators. And it's worked incredibly well. And then you go to the other side of the football, and the thought process offensively is, we got to do the exact same thing that we want the other team to do on the other side of the football. That in order for Iowa to have a successful scoring drive, they're going to have to consistently make plays. 8, 10, 12 play drives. How could that be your philosophy when they are so opposed? It's just the simple part of it. It's confounding. It absolutely is. A little more from Smooth here. Let's see. Change it or continue to lose to Iowa State and force the fans and the team to have to cheer for the remainder of the season and keep getting blown out by the Ohio States, Michigans, and Penn States of the world. People keep picking Iowa to beat Oregon at Kinnick. I was one of those before the year. I'd like a mulligan. Can I get a breakfast ball, please, on that one? Because of the stupid 3 time zones junk, and because Oregon struggled against a bad Wisconsin team last year. That was mine. That's me, Smooth. I know. If Iowa goes out and plays that sissy-ass play to not lose football against them, they're going to make all the people who bought a ticket want a refund. Amen, Smooth. You're absolutely about that. No doubt about it. Bellator, jumping on the panic button with both feet after almost beating one of the top 20 teams in the country is asinine. Comparing this to 1998 WTF. Time to take a chill pill, man. Bellator, I just call it like I see it. I didn't say that this is going to be just like 1998, but it was a thought that came to my mind because nobody saw 1998 coming either. The last year of Hayden Fry, nobody thought that was going to happen. When it happened, there are similarities. I'm not making a thought that it's going to happen. There's just some similarities. Coming up this weekend, it's UMass. This is from VGS Hawk. What I would like to see against UMass, get a big lead at half, play reserves the second half, and get ready for Rutgers on a short week. Really good point there. Of course, that's a Friday game, a week from Friday, that they take on Rutgers. You need to get the offense cranked up. As I've said earlier in this week, want to see a whole lot more out of the offense, but that certainly could be something that would make sense, and we'll see this team very quickly go deep if they can get out to a big lead, and unfortunately, that is a pretty big if with this offense? Well, it's been weeks and weeks and weeks since we talked Iowa basketball. Let's get into that a little bit. We got an updated roster and some weight gains, some height gains. We'll talk about the Iowa men's basketball team when we come back on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel app to get on so many different things. I love betting baseball. I love betting football. And that's not all. How about the WNBA? All right there for you, and it makes every game more exciting. How about building a same-game parlay, taking that little bit, maybe making it into a lot? It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get categories on your spending. Finally, feeling in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. I am a small business owner, and using Monarch has helped us put our finances all together in one place and finding an efficient way to put our investments together. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege, monarchmoney.com. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. All right, let's get into it. A little basketball talk to wrap things up. That's right. Let's talk some hoops. So, updated roster is up on HawkeyeSports.com, and there's a couple of changes on there. Now, there's a ton of changes on there because of all the different guys, but a couple of things that I thought jumped off the page, at least to me. Number one, we've talked so much about Bennett Sturtz, and maybe, well, he is the most important transfer that Iowa got in the market when Coach McCollum came on board. Bennett Sturtz, we know he's going to be good. He's going to be elite. He's a preseason All-American. But maybe second on that list was the addition of Alvaro Fulgaris, who comes in by way of Robert Morris, the 6'9" at the time Spaniard. Now he's listed at 6'10", a little bit bigger than what he was listed at last year. Has he actually gained an inch? Fingers crossed. That would be nice. Iowa is going to play a little bit small. They're not going to have your traditional 5-man as you think of old school basketball, at least unless Trevin Urach is out there. But him along with Cam Manwa together in that front court, those are two guys. By the way, Cam Manwa is also listed as an inch taller. Is he actually 6'9"? Did he grow an inch in the offseason? Let's hope that is the case. But he is burly. He is physical. He's also put on weight. That's another thing that also jumps out here is the weight gains that we've seen from these players compared to a year ago. We've seen the videos, watched the tape, seen everything that is happening there inside. Still, that kind of girth that has been added to these guys, impressive. Bennett Sturtz, he's up 10 pounds. These are all good things. Talked about optimism, talked about this squad a lot during the offseason and where they are. Boy, they're putting in the work. And Ben McCollum continues to do all the right things and feels like he's pushing all the right buttons for this team. Hopefully we are not turning the page too early from football season, but I'll tell you one thing. I am pumped up for basketball. Thanks for being with us on Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast, and a big thank you to you everydayers with us each and every day. We got a ton going on here on the Locked On Network as well. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation, along with two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. We got you covered on the Hawkeye front, your favorite team each and every day here on the Locked On Network. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. 5-star review on the podcast side. Thank you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.